Well, looky what we have here.
You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
This weird nostalgia thing now where when we think about video stores and renting movies, we only think of Blockbuster. Blockbuster has dominated pop culture as far as movie rentals go. I put a picture up on the 91 Reasons page of a picture of a Blockbuster that said, I can smell this picture, and I got a lot of comments on it. It got a long reach, but Blockbuster was late in the game to the video rental industry. Before Blockbuster, the video rental game was dominated by mom and pop stores. And these mom and pop stores ruled the roost because whatever they decided to stock was your movie selection. And, you know, I'm so naive. I'm so naive that I just assumed they got a catalog from whatever movie company was providing it, and just ordered one of each, you know, or two of each if it was a big movie. But that's not the case. And, you know, Blockbuster didn't show up in my neck of the woods till probably 88. Like, it was late. And until that time, I worked at a video store called Multi-Video. It was a mom and pop place, because that's all there were. There was, by my house, there was the Video Guild. There was Steve's Video. And the big, you know, the big game in town was Multi-Video. This was a supermarket-sized place that sold VCRs, Laserdisc players, rented movies, popcorn. It had a play area for kids. We sold balloons, and they baked cookies at the register right next to a soda fountain. It was a one-stop audio-video entertainment store. And they were featured in a lot of those small business magazines because the owner, John English, was raking in over $1 million a year at a time when the economy was slow, but video stores were skyrocketing. There's no doubt that the executives at McDonald's read this, and that's where they broke off and said, we're going to McDonaldize the video industry by creating Blockbuster, because that's all Blockbuster was. It was McDonald's, and we didn't serve hamburgers, we served movies. But those mom and pop stores that dominated, they had a person called the buyer, and the buyer would get the catalog, and in my case, it was a company called Ingram. I don't know if they're even around anymore, but Ingram was the video distributor for our neck of the woods, and you ordered all your videos from them, and they offered a price break based on how many copies of the movies that you got, because when I started the video store, the average price for a video was $59.99. They were not meant to be sold. They were meant for the rental industry. They had movies that were meant to be sold. That was called sell-through. And those didn't take off until probably 88 or 89. They had them, but the idea of collecting your own video library was not originally the business model. The business model was the customer rented the video, returned the video, and you rented it to somebody else, and that's where you made your money. Occasionally, they would put out a video that they knew everybody wanted, and obviously the first people to do this was Disney. Now, their sell-through titles were $29.95. They halved what the original retail was on the big movies, and people would buy $30 copies of 101 Dalmatians, Pinocchio, those sorts of movies. But sell-through didn't take off until, late. Like, I remember the first big one was probably E.T. Everybody wanted a copy of E.T. Batman 89 was like the big signifier of, this is a movie that people don't want to rent, they want to buy it. And you could buy a copy of Batman 89. It came out, I think, November of 89 on video, about 5 months after its theatrical run. And you could, if you shopped around, you could get a copy of Batman for about $4. And that was eclipsed only by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When that movie came out on video, that was by a smaller company. I think it was called Live Entertainment. Amazing what your brain retains, right? But if you shopped around, they were using Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a loss leader, meaning they would take a loss on the video if you buying the video got you in the store and maybe you bought something else while you were there, and you could get Turtles for $2 in some places. There were gas stations that had Turtles. Everybody had Turtles. There were some companies that bucked the trend. The first time that Ghost was released, remember Ghost? Ghost and Hunt for Red October were both released by Paramount near the same time. And they knew that demand for these videos would be huge. So these were released only in a 1 week window. You had 1 week to order it, or you didn't get it in your store. And the copies were $99.95 a piece with no discount. They gouged everybody on this. And we got a bunch of rental copies and one sell-through copy of Ghost. We had it behind the register. It was $99.95. And when people ask, they literally couldn't believe how much it cost, because the average consumer only wanted to purchase certain movies and didn't understand that 90% of the movies in the store were $59.99 and up. By the time Ghost came out, the average price for a video was $79.95, and Paramount wanted a $20 premium on that. And the only thing they offered was you'd have them in your store, which is how you made money, and Ghost came in white plastic, and Red October came in red plastic, not the standard black plastic. Those are the first releases. I just managed to get them off eBay. They're actually pretty hard to find, and you pay more than you think you want to for a videotape. But back at the mom and pop store, our video buyer was this woman named Dorinda. I'd never met anybody named Dorinda. I've never met anybody since named Dorinda. She was one of a kind. And I was 17 when I started there. And of course, I knew everything. And I couldn't understand why this middle-aged woman was the person in charge of picking the movie selection for the store. Because remember, if the video buyer doesn't order it for that store, you don't get to watch it. Now, Multivideo prided itself on being a Christian video store, so we did not have an adult section. Remember the two swing-in saloon doors where you'd go in the back room and pick out your videos and take them up to the register without making eye contact with the clerk? We didn't have that at Multivideo, and when people found out, they would look at me strangely because there was a lot of money to be made in adult rentals. Let's not forget that adult movies is what created the video industry. You know, pornography always pushes technology. And before home video, you watched pornography on reel-to-reel film with a projector called Stag films. You've probably seen them in movies. I never dealt with that because I'm not that old. But we didn't have those at our store. And when people would ask for certain movies, we'd have to say, we know they didn't order that movie. Now, that's not a big deal because in the early days of the video store, or the late 80s, most people didn't know about movies except the big ones. If it had a theatrical run of any merit, people wanted to rent it. It didn't matter if the movie was good. I mean, if you've seen Clerks, the guy holds up a copy of Navy SEALs, and he's all excited. That's not a joke, man. We had, at Blockbuster, we must have had 40 copies of Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen and Michael Biehn. Most people, again, never even heard of that movie. But these movies had their day because they had a short theatrical run that was really just a commercial for the video release, because the studio makes all their money back in the day on selling you the $24.95 video eventually, or renting it, because there was some weird thing where I think the video stores eventually had to share rental profits with the studios. You know, buying it wasn't enough. They wanted rental royalties. Very strange. But this woman Dorinda, she had a little office, a little desk back there, and all the catalogs. And she was in charge of ordering the movies. And her choices, I thought, were bizarre. And I know, like, her only job was to make money for the store. We were not there, Multivideo was not there to be some sort of video archivist of all the movies. It's whatever made money. But again, like, the idea of the price break based on how many copies you bought was unsettling, because every Tuesday the movies would come in, sometimes Monday night, but normally Tuesday morning, and we had to get them out as fast as we could because the customers were waiting. But these movies would come in, and there'd be 20 copies of some movie nobody cares about. And Dorinda had bought 20 of them because that's what brought the price down to some manageable level. And I don't know the specifics of the money involved, but I do know that I used to go to her and say, can't you buy 19 copies of this crap fest and one copy of this movie that a bunch of people have asked for? No, we're not buying that movie. And this went on for a while. Dorinda and I butted heads quite a bit because she would fill the shelves with, I'm going to mention movies, you probably never even heard of these movies. 20 copies of a movie called Feds with Mary Gross. 20 copies of Big Business with Lily Tomlin and Bette Midler. 20 copies of Fresh Horses with Molly Ringwald. Like, these are movies we would struggle, and we were supposed to suggestively sell these. And that doesn't mean, like, do you want the movie? No, we were supposed to suggest to the customer that this is a new release, you should rent this, because the computer kept track of how many times a movie was rented. So at any time, the owner, John, could call up on a computer screen how well the tapes were doing, and he would go, you need to push Fresh Horses. And I'd go, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Nobody wants Fresh Horses. Nobody wants Feds. Nobody wants Big Business. They want Child's Play. Well, we only got 5 copies of that. Yeah, I know. And they're always checked out. We got 1 copy of Do the Right Thing, the Spike Lee movie, which was a pretty big critical hit. Dorinda didn't understand anything about, I wanted to see this movie. Well, we got 1 copy. Well, if I take it home on my free rental, that means it's not making any money and the customers can't get it. So you feel bad. You have to wait like a month before you can take it home. She got 1 copy of these other movies. I'm like, why only 1 copy? Well, nobody wants about that movie. Just because you're interested, Jeff, just because you're suggesting that the customers rent it, doesn't mean that we need 10 copies of it. I go, yeah, but Big Business? Big Business? Well, it's a very popular movie. No, it's not. It's not a very popular movie. And it came to a head with a movie called Tapeheads. Tapeheads stars John Cusack and Tim Robbins. And they play, I think they play video producers. And I worked with John English's son, John English Jr. He was one of my best friends in high school. And we both really wanted this movie because here's what happens. You don't know a lot of movies are coming out. So packed in every Tuesday with the movie shipment is a trailer tape. And we would pop in that trailer tape as fast as we could because it would tell us what was coming. And you were supposed to play these in the store. But we couldn't play them because Dorinda wasn't ordering all of those movies. So we'd have trailers for movies that we didn't have. So my job was to take them in the back, these trailer tapes, using 2 VCRs, make another trailer tape of just the movies that we bought. And that's how we ended up watching a trailer for a horrible film called Winter People with Kurt Russell and the lady from Top Gun, Kelly McGillis, over and over again, even though we only had 2 copies of it. But on that trailer tape, there was a trailer for Tapeheads, and it just looked funny. We wanted it. And Dorinda said, we're not ordering it. And I said, I don't understand. It's 1 movie out of 100 that you're going to order. Well, we're not getting it. So every once in a while, John Sr. would have these meetings at his house. He would serve a nice breakfast, and we would just talk about working at the video store. Now, these were early in the morning because they were before the store would open. And the next one of those we had, I raised my hand and I said, John and I are concerned that we want this movie and Dorinda won't order it. Well, Dorinda, why won't you order it? Well, it's not going to make any money. Well, Jeff and John, can you guarantee that this film is going to make money? If we buy the videotape. Well, I was honest. I said, no, I can't guarantee it. Well, you're just buying it because you want to see it. I said, well, that's part of it. But also, it's like we need to have a rounded library of movies, not just whatever crap fest is popular in the theater for 10 seconds. Oh, so eventually we won. They ordered Tapeheads. John and I got to watch it. It wasn't that good, but felt really good winning against Dorinda and her weird ordering practices. That we got to have the movie, and we suggestively sold it to people. Hey, this is a new movie. It's got John Cusack. He's going to be in that new movie, Say Anything. You probably want to see this. And eventually, after many months, the $60 tape actually paid for itself in rentals, and that was a good deal, right? But, whatever. But the reason I bring all this up is a lot of movies, you don't get to see, we didn't get to see a lot of movies back in the day because our local video store simply didn't order it because they didn't know what it was. And a movie like Whitewater Summer completely goes below my radar, because I've never heard of it. It got mentioned on the 91 Reasons page by Kevin Wilson and Tim Wilson. They were talking about they wanted to rent it all the time. I've never even heard of this movie. A Kevin Bacon movie? Well, I thought they were talking about The River Wild, which is another Kevin Bacon Whitewater movie, but this one is with Meryl Streep, and he plays this psycho. So I've never heard of Whitewater Summer. So immediately, it's a movie I've never heard of. I got to watch it. It's Kevin Bacon, and it's Sean Astin. Okay, I'll check it out. So I watched Whitewater Summer just because I'm very into these hidden classic movies. This guy at work, Daniel, we're always trying to come up with movies the other one has never heard of. And it's tough because I know a lot of movies. Working at a video store, that's all you're immersed in is movie title after movie title after movie title. Movies like Buster, starring Phil Collins, that, again, no one's ever heard of these movies, right? So, Whitewater Summer was made in 1985, but it wasn't released until 1987. They had some sort of problems with it, and it's a very strange movie. It's a movie they don't really make anymore. It's a young man coming-of-age movie. If you've ever read Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces, it tells you all about how hero legends are born and how stories help young boys become young men. And how that works is young girls have a biological trigger. The minute they get their cycle, they're considered women. Young boys never have that. This is all from Joseph Campbell. So a lot of primitive people would invent rituals so that you could signify that this young boy is now a man. In the Jewish world, it's the bar mitzvah. In Indian tribes, it's a spirit walk. It's these things you have to go do. You have to complete a quest. You have to perform a ritual in front of everyone that signifies that you are now a man. They used to make a lot of movies about rites of passage, and the first title for this movie, I think, was Rites of Summer or something similar to that. Which plays right into what it is. Sean Astin plays this young, very smart city boy who is sent to summer camp for the summer every year. And this year his parents have decided to send him backpacking with Kevin Bacon with 3 other boys. So it's 4 boys and Kevin Bacon. And if you look at the cast, in 85, all of these kids probably thought, this is it. We've made it. You've got the kid who's going to eventually star as the son on Charles in Charge. You've got Sean Astin, who he probably had just done Goonies, so was like trying to bolster his resume with a quick second movie right after that. You've got the kid who played Michael J. Fox's best friend in Teen Wolf, and the kid with the headphones from E.T., along with Kevin Bacon, who's just coming off Footloose. It's a pretty good cast. The movie is really quick. It's a 90-minute movie, so it does follow the 30-30-30 screenplay format. The first 30 is we meet Sean, we find out who he is, and he goes backpacking, and at the 30-minute mark, they're heading into the woods. They hike for 30 minutes. At the 60-minute mark, he is left hanging off the side of a mountain because at the 30-minute mark, at the 60-minute mark, the second 30, you put your character in as much trouble as he can get, and he must find his way out. And the last 30 is the resolution. Now, I figured going into this movie that it would be a pretty by-the-numbers 80s movie where these kids go out camping, the guide is very experienced, he pushes them to do better, and then eventually falls down a cliff and breaks his leg, and they have to band together as young men now and get him out. What I didn't count on was, yes, they would do that, but they would do it by turning Kevin Bacon into a villain. It's a very strange turn of events. He pushes them so hard that they turn on him, and he doesn't fall down a cliff accidentally. They throw a freaking rock at his head and knock him off the mountain where he breaks his leg, and it's horrific. But by that time in the movie, you get it. Because, man, I'm watching it as an old man, and I'm like, those kids are so horrible to that guy. But if I was a young guy, I would have said, man, leave him. This guy's a jerk. Leave him in that ravine. But that's not the movie. The movie is becoming a man through ritual. So they have to band together. Half of them go off for help, and then Sean stays behind to get Kevin Bacon out of the woods. And he's saved by, first, Sean Astin's ingenuity, which was a detriment earlier in the film where he builds a fish trap that Kevin Bacon can't stand because it's better than his natural fishing method. And in the end, it's a fulcrum that Sean Astin builds that saves Bacon from, dying in the wilderness. And the whitewater portion comes in where, the first time Sean goes down the river, he fails, and he's a complete wreck. And the second time, he has to do it practically alone to get Kevin out. That's the crux finale of the movie, is getting him out via boat. It's a pretty well-done film. It's very typically 80s. It has music montages that are inexplicably these hard rock, and the Cult is in it. It's got a really good soundtrack. The problem with this film is that it was only released in a handful of theaters in the Pacific Northwest because they figured that's who it would appeal to. It never got a wide release. It was never released in Southern California. So if my local video store didn't order Whitewater Summer, which they didn't, there's no way for me to see it. I mean, that's how weird the video industry was. Now, when Blockbuster came around, they had the money and the pockets to order everything. So a store would open fully stocked with hundreds, thousands of catalog titles, the latest new releases, and as the new releases are being pushed to the shelf, the store is getting fuller and fuller and fuller, and they're selling off the excess rental copies. Because, Batman, even though Batman was $5, stores like Blockbuster, even Multivideo, had like 80 copies to rent because that first night everybody wants it. They're not going to buy it that first night. They'll buy it later, and every copy is sold out. But if they don't get all the titles, movies like this just slip through the cracks, which is weird because Kevin Bacon, even at 85 when it's filmed, is arguably a pretty big star. Now, the movie was held until 87. Obviously, someone on the production team, one of the producers, saw Ferris Bueller and decided to add this totally bizarre wraparound narration where you see Sean Astin in the woods, and he's so much older than in the movie. And he's talking hip, but he's got sunglasses, and all he does is explain stuff you've already seen in the movie. There's a scene involving a rope bridge where he nearly falls. So when they cut to older Sean describing it, he uses an egg to tell you what could have happened if he fell. I'm like, no, we already saw the movie. This narration is completely superfluous. They don't need this in the movie. But, again, someone must have seen Ferris Bueller. They wanted to add this bizarre prologue, epilogue, and you can tell that it's added on because A, he's way too old, and B, check the scene where his parents are debating whether or not to actually send him on the trip. The mother and father, who are, they're hardly in the movie, their dialogue is is dialed down so that you can hear the narration. But you can tell that the actors weren't told that because they're giving it their all. They're saying lines that in the original cut we probably needed to hear, but are negated by Sean Astin's narration. It's a weird part of the movie. It's worth checking out. Whitewater Summer is not a bad movie in any way. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and it's a movie if I'd gotten it in 87 or 88 when it was released, I probably would have watched it a lot. I like Sean Astin from Goonies. This is his pre-Encino Man days. That's where I stopped watching Sean Astin movies. I was never a Pauly Shore fan. My wife is, and Encino Man's one of her favorite movies, but I was like, oh, that's the Goonies guy, but he's all grown up. I loved him in Lord of the Rings, obviously. But what a weird movie to have fallen through the cracks. It shares a lot in the Goonies as far as quest. The quest is not gold or saving your house, but to find the strength within yourself. Because the Sean Astin's character is constantly saying, I can't do it, I can't do it. Kevin Bacon is constantly saying, you can. All you have to do is do it. Find it within yourself. And just like Goonies, it has a weird urination scene. Goonies has that weird scene where they're all going to the bathroom. And, Josh Brolin is like, get out there and find out what she's ragging on. And that's where Sean Astin kisses Cary Green's character, Andy. But in this one, they say they have to go to the bathroom, and instead of finding their own corner of the forest, they all line up and have literally a pissing contest in the movie to see who can piss the farthest. It is completely bizarre. It's very 80s. It's locked in 80s. They would never do that. I mean, I guess they might do it now, but it would be really gross. This is very innocent. This movie shares a lot, other than the dead body, with Stand By Me. It would be a really good companion movie to Stand By Me, as far as coming of age and going on a quest. It ends with Sean. It ends really abruptly, where the boat wrecks. Kevin Bacon is swirling around in the water. Sean Astin saves him. They look up. There's a helicopter, and the credits roll. And I remember I sitting there watching it going, oh my God, this is really abrupt. There's no resolution. I mean, I guess they're saved, but no resolution or him saying, I'm a man now. And then the credits stop. We cut back to Sean Astin in the forest, and he says, I'm a man now, and I went camping every summer after that. Are you kidding? And the camera pulls back to reveal that he's not in the forest. He's in Central Park. He's decided never to go camping again, which is a funny way to end the movie. But it's also, did the character learn anything? I guess he did, because there was no court case, because Kevin Bacon's pretty mean to these kids. At one point, he abandons them in the forest. He abandons Sean on an island to gut fish. They walk away from him. They freeze out in the water. But you get the idea that at the end, what each party has done to each other cancels each other out. And that each one is okay with the lessons that they've learned. And it's not about involving the law or anybody getting arrested. It's about survival at that point. It's a really fun movie, Whitewater Summer. It's a strange title because they only do the Whitewater twice. Once they fail and the second time they succeed. But I can see why the title is supposed to be all-encompassing, and you're having this fun camping adventure with Kevin Bacon and these young child stars. You can see how they could market it that way. Unfortunately, they didn't market it anyway, and they let it die. And it's weird to think that everybody shows up to make a movie. You know, movies have something called a completion bond, where the producers sign it saying to the bank, thank you for the loan of the money. We promise to finish this movie. Because some movies just get abandoned. You know, the Man Who Killed Don Quixote was abandoned twice before Terry Gilliam finally managed to make it. But everybody has to agree that for the next 3 months, we're all going to get up at 5 a.m., we're going to show up, and we're going to pretend to make this movie about, we're going to make this movie about pretending to camp in the woods. And everybody has, they show up to the set, the days are long, they get the shots, the camera's all over this mountain, they're hanging it from wires to get these shots, they build a rope bridge. Every day they have to provide food for these people and makeup and costumes, and then nobody sees the movie. The movie goes nowhere. That's a sobering, sad thought. But that's what happens. Sometimes that's what happens. Sometimes the movie gets a wide release and nobody goes to see it. That's even sadder. But when a movie gets abandoned like this by its studio, you're bummed out because you go, I could have enjoyed this movie. I would have gone to the theater to see it. Back when this came out, I saw every movie in the theater. There was a movie at the same time this was supposed to come out in theaters called Shoot to Kill with Kirstie Alley and Tom Berenger, Danny Glover. And that's, it's another camping, chasing in the woods movie. So there was a whole genre of these. This one could have fit nicely in with a movie made for a younger audience with the same type of themes. Made me want to go camping, so I guess it did its job. So thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Tim, for the movie tip. I hope I didn't shock you with actually watching it and reviewing it, but I thought it was a nice way to talk about how the mom and pop video chains really did affect pop culture in a way of what movies you got to see, how many times you got to see it. Sometimes you would go to that video store to get Whitewater Summer and it wasn't in there, it was checked out. I mean, that's a huge disappointment. Imagine going to the video store, and the movie you want is checked out. Oh, you want to kill yourself. But what do? You find another movie to watch because you're not going home empty-handed. And that's how you discover a lot of movies, This idea now on Netflix of everything's available at every time, which is ridiculous because Netflix doesn't have 10% of the movies I want. They have never have the movie I want. I have to buy them all on eBay on disc. But this idea of choice all the time means that some things are just going to get lost because everyone's going to get to watch the exact item they want and not have to settle for something that they might like, but it's not their first choice. I was dragged to see Back to the Future. It was not my first choice. And look how that turned out. I was dragged to see Beetlejuice. I'd never even heard of it. So it's interesting when you put that lens on it. So check out Whitewater Summer. You can get it on eBay. It's about $8 shipped. It's a great movie. Kevin Bacon's really good in it. The child actors are really good in it. The Sean Astin's mom, I looked at her forever like, I know that woman. And she's actually in Mermaids with Winona Ryder. So it's a movie I've seen a lot. So I know all the even the character side actors in it. That's how pathetic I am. So, hey, check out Whitewater Summer. Check out our 91 Reasons Facebook page. That's where I found out about this movie. So the Facebook page works. I'm not going to go camping. My wife would never go camping. There's too many bugs and the chance of a snake, so she would never go. But I remain Jeff Tucker, the voice, and the show is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
14 years, I've done all kinds of games. Soccer, sailing, computer, tennis, even chess.
It's a unique challenge of the great outdoors.
Until this guy showed up.
What's going on back there?
Nobody really great ever slept collecting dirt.
Campsite's about a half mile on the other side of this gorge.
I'm scared. Ever see a picture of Da Vinci pitching a tent? No. Let's talk about the really great campers. I know you can do this.
Alan, there's no other way you can. Put your helmet on. Do your best. How did your father ever talk you into coming this summer?
Sean asked him.
I was young.